And did you know in Toy Story, one of the writers revealed who Woody's original owner was?
It's not Andy?
No, somebody gave him to Andy.
And we know who?
We do now. It's Andy's father, who we've never seen in the movie before.
Well, that explains why he's so worn down compared to the other toys. He's gone through it.
Andy explained Andy's father's entire backstory, how he had polio and he was bedridden for most of his adult life. And in order to not keep it from spreading, because back in the day they didn't really know what that disease could do, they burned all his stuff. But the one thing he kept was Woody, locked away in a chest.
Jeez, no wonder that's Andy's favorite toy. All the sentimental value in that?
Yeah, and so his health improved. He was able to have Andy, but then when the disease returned later on and he became terminally ill, he gave Andy the key to the chest as he was passing, so that Andy would always have a best friend and something to remember his father by.
Wow.
So Woody might be the spirit of Andy's father.
Man, why is that not in the movie?
I know, that'd be a
And if you have something called a JED, it looks like a Tesla coil, and it's all over Egypt. Everywhere you look in hieroglyphs, it's everywhere, and they have cables coming out of them, electric cables. They were connected to their electroplating devices, light bulbs, anything that needed electricity was connected to the JED. The JED would capture the ambient electricity from the obelisk. The obelisk were like electric wire poles in your neighborhood, basically, but just doing it all wirelessly. And by that method, they were able to transmit the wireless energy all around the region, and the JEDs would capture that energy, and they can power whatever they wanted. Now, what's also interesting about the Great Pyramid, a small amount of that water would be pushed up into the pyramid and down into the Queen's Chamber. Now, the Queen's Chamber, when you analyze it and look at the x-rays of it, you discover something interesting. It operates like an electrolysis machine. Why electrolysis? If you use electrolysis with running water, you can extract the hydrogen atoms out of the water, which is what we do in different types of engines that we have right now. The Navy has a ship that never has to come back for gas because it just takes the water from the ocean, extracts the hydrogen atoms, and pushes it into a chamber for engine combustion, and they run on hydrogen. They don't run on gas anymore.
I don't know. Do you believe that there were government agencies involved in the deaths of your father and uncle?
Yeah, I mean, clearly there was government agencies involved, not only in the death of my uncle, but the cover-up. And, I'm an attorney. If just with the evidence, without doing any discovery, with the evidence out there now that is accumulated about my uncle's death, there's over 1 million documents. Many of the people involved have made confessions, including E. Howard Hunt, David Atlee Phillips, David Morales, Charles Harrelson, Woody's father, who was, involved briefly in it, and many others who were involved and confessed. But also, there's hundreds of thousands of documents that show what happened, and you have a 60-year CIA effort to make sure nobody sees that.
Okay, so
an expedition to the area to find minerals, but what he discovered there was something completely unexpected. Approximately 40 miles upriver from El Tovar Crystal Canyon, Kincaid observed unusual sediment stains, and upon investigation found a cavern entrance with steps leading to it, suggesting a man-made structure. Inside, Kincaid found writings on the walls not in English or Native American scripts, but in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. This finding suggested a historical connection far beyond local or known civilizations. The cave system revealed a vast underground city, estimated to house up to 50,000 people, complete with granaries, cooking areas, and artifacts, indicating a sophisticated society with knowledge of metalwork and possibly agriculture. Among the findings were granaries with preserved seeds, tools made of copper indicating a lost art of hardening the metal, and various artifacts that pointed to a technologically advanced civilization. The complexity of the cave system with engineered passageways and rooms challenged contemporary understandings of ancient civilizations in North America. Kincaid's findings led to a Smithsonian expedition led by Professor S.A. Jordan, which further explored the cave system, uncovering a central chamber with a statue resembling Buddha, hinting at a cultural amalgamation or influence from distant lands. The artifacts and the layout of the cave suggested a deliberate, sophisticated design, contradicting the notion of an isolated or primitive local civilization. Despite significant discoveries, mainstream researchers and the Smithsonian have labeled the account as a hoax and dismissing the claims of an advanced civilization predating Native Americans in the Grand Canyon, and the possibility of ancient transoceanic contacts that might have influenced pre-Columbian American civilizations. Any and all attempts to further explore or validate Kincaid's findings face governmental restrictions, with areas off limits for exploration. This remarkable discovery aligns with local tribal legends, such as those of the Hopi, suggesting a historical basis for tales of ancient peoples and non-human entities emerging from the Grand Canyon, blending myth with tangible archaeological intrigue.
Did these soldiers really see demons? Although the development of night vision technology began before World War II, widespread use of it didn't begin until the Vietnam War. You see, the first generation of passive night vision devices were called starlight scopes that used a red spectrum instead of green, effectively allowing American soldiers to see at night. However, when helicopter gunners were given these scopes to wear during evening missions, disaster struck. According to one helicopter pilot's account, the gunner on board was looking into an area that had nothing in it during the mission, but began firing wildly anyway, causing the other helicopters in their flotilla to respond, making them shoot one another. When the pilot asked what he was firing at, he explained that he was seeing flying demons coming right for them. Reports seeing demons in the air and monsters in the jungle, perched on the trees, watching them. One even described it as looking straight into hell. Eventually, soldiers and officers were ordered to stop using these goggles, and these scopes were removed from service. And in the end, many were discharged due to having psychological breaks after using this technology.
Remember all the great fires? 1888, 1889, 1890, 1891, 1892, 1893, which were all resets? Those were all fires too. Just so happened everything caught on fire. A cow kicked over a lantern. And somehow everything caught on fire. Stone and granite caught on fire. Stone and granite caught on fire. I'm gonna say that one more time. So then you start to look at the 1850s to like 1900s and go, well then how much of that is scripted? It seems like a lot of scripting is going on. Well, in 1851 we're gonna have a great fire. 1852 we're gonna have a great fire. 1853 we'll have a flood. 1854 we'll have a hurricane. You see it? That's the thing. The more I would dive into the past, into these books, the more I saw the exact same thing on repeat. So then it comes down to, if the people don't realize that the same thing is on repeat, then guess what? They keep doing the same exact thing to the people. They destroyed the history 100%. They told you Oregon Trail and the whole, we're riding around on Oregon Trail. Meanwhile, they're getting rid of all the old world buildings, they're getting rid of all these beauties, all these statues, all that, so that they can now tell another story.
Yeah, how many months are there in a year? 12, exactly. How many weeks are there in a year? 52, good. However, 12 months, well 12 times 4 is 48. And 52 minus 4 is 48. Doesn't take a genius to work out we've got 4 extra weeks. And what do 4 weeks make? A month. There are actually 13 months in a year.
That's crazy.
We are being paid for 12 months work and we are doing 13 months work.
Bruh. That is embarrassing. 4 times. After the 4th time, write down what you hear. Interesting. Almost everyone here heard that is embarrassing. Listen again and watch the screen.
That's crazy.
You heard the same thing every single time. Our eyes and ears take in electrical signals which our brains interpret based on our expectations. We don't see reality. We see our reality.
This photo of the interior of a cockpit where the pilot has been sucked out of the plane and a flight attendant is desperately hanging onto him, this really happened. The photo is a recreation, but the incident did happen. It happened in June of 1990 on a British Airways flight. The flight took off, they were 17,000 feet in the air, and then a flight attendant happened to come into the cockpit at the exact moment a windscreen blew out. The pilot, Captain Timothy Lancaster, was sucked through the window, and the flight attendant, thinking quickly, reached out and grabbed his belt at the last moment, holding him in place. The plane, which was not on autopilot, immediately starts going down and increasing in speed, heading toward the ground. Again, this is not a photo of the actual incident. There are no photos. This is a screenshot from a recreation that was broadcast on TV. But again, in real life, the co-pilot guided the plane toward an emergency landing at a nearby airport. The flight attendant becomes exhausted clinging to the captain, and they actually have to have another crew member come and take over hanging onto it. Lancaster is banging into the cabin from the outside. It is freezing cold out there. They all assumed he was. They were clinging onto his body because they were afraid that if they let go, he would fly back and destroy a wing or an engine. Instead, they landed, and Lancaster survived with just some broken bones and frostbite. In the investigation after, it turned out that the windscreen blew out because when it was installed, They used bolts that were 0.5 millimeter too small. They were supposed to use that, and they used that instead.
What in dear God? What is that thing, dude? Is this real?
How would you feel if after you had surgery, you found out that the surgeon had branded his initials onto your organs? Well, in 2013, a surgeon in England made a shocking discovery when he was performing surgery on a patient who had recently had a liver transplant that hadn't healed. During the procedure, the surgeon discovered that the letters SB were branded on the patient's liver. As the last surgeon to perform the surgery was named Simon Bramhall, an investigation was launched and it was discovered that Mr. Bramhall had branded his initials using an argon beam onto 2 patients' liver while performing surgery on them. What's even crazier is that Mr. Bramhall had also co-written a crime novel about a surgeon who was caught branding his initials onto patients' livers. A tribunal said that although Mr. Bramhall hadn't caused the patients any severe physical damage, he had inflicted a significant emotional harm onto one of his patients. He pled guilty to the charges of assault by beating, but managed to avoid prison time and was sentenced to 12 months community order, 120 hours of unpaid work and a £10,000 fine. He was then stripped of his medical license. Mr. Bramhall stated that my actions demonstrated professional arrogance of such magnitude that it strayed into criminal behavior.
Listen, y'all do not buy a car from Carvana. Carvana is out here selling stolen cars. I don't know how this managed to make it off the lot. My brother spent 77 cash on this damn vet. 12 came through, ran the vents. They was like, it's stolen in Florida. We gotta tow it. And hold on, wait, so y'all know niggas ain't lying. Hold on. This from what that say? Carvana. Listen, Carvana is out here selling stolen cars. 12 pulled up, they said, hey, we ran the van, the car is stolen, we gotta tow it. Look at this. This Texas here though, baby. That's the sad part. They say, hey man, ain't no nothing you he sold the paperwork and everything. They towing it. Carvana's out here selling stolen cars, bro.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day. The #1 cause for death in pregnant women right now is homicide, and it's most likely from their partner with a fire. You are more likely to be bitten by a New Yorker than a shark. If bees were paid a minimum wage, a jar of honey would cost over $200,000. Ants have been confirmed to pass the mirror test, which means that they are aware that they are seeing a reflection of themselves. Cannabis is legal in many countries. There are just laws against how you obtain the blends. You are more likely to be murdered by a family member on Christmas Day than a stranger on any other day. You are also more likely to during a USA Powerball drawing than actually winning. Over 50% of all Americans do not have access to $1,000 in case of emergencies. One of the biggest houses in the world and one of the biggest slums in the world are right next to each other in India. It used to be kind of common to be buried alive on accident, which is why they added bells to the graves. This man donated his mother's body for medical research after she passed away. He found out a couple years later that her body was sold to the US Army for $5,000, where it was strapped to a chair and blown up for testing.
Everybody in the United States is getting sick. The thing is, it's being caused by an unknown virus that doesn't have a name. No one knows how it started or where it came from, but the virus has affected hundreds, if not thousands of people on TikTok, including myself and my entire family. As I'm filming this video, I'm extremely sick, even though I might not sound like it. Actually, I might. And all I know is that my throat and my nose are in a lot of pain. People online are also reporting similar symptoms of having a lot of sinus pressure, and whenever they test for it turns out to be negative. People are also saying that the virus makes them feel like they're gonna pass out and vomit constantly. In fact, a girl online allegedly had to miss 3 weeks of work because she had contracted the virus and was unable to leave her bed. As a result, people in the comments section are saying things like the doctor can't identify what their sickness is, and others are saying that they were coughing so much at night that they can't get any sleep. With many people on Twitter making comparisons that this is worse than the pandemic, as whatever this virus is, it seems to be a lot more serious than COVID.